Greeting, mortals. No, welcome back, guys. We talked in the first half of this a little bit about Candle Obscura, so if you missed that, feel free to check that out on our YouTube channel when that drops in a couple of weeks. But from now to the end of this show, we're going to be talking about the hub, this place that we had created a couple of weeks ago in our stream live, which you can pick up this map along with the map of the stables on our Patreon page if you're interested in it. If you want to check out the video of us making it, it is on YouTube, or the video of making the maps themselves will be dropped on YouTube later on today. But today we're going to focus on factions. And this is, in general, right, a way to help us and help people come up with ideas on factions to use in their own settings. Factions that could possibly be part of, their world. And why are there factions there? I think these are kind of things that help also develop your world building and develop the world as a fully fledged, interesting part of your system and your setting. All right, so let's think. We have a small town. It's a logging town. It is kind of a place where there's a lot of travel through here. The river acts as a way to a conduit for their goods to get down river to the main city that is miles, or we don't even know exactly how far, but a decent ways down the river. There's a road that passes through it, so presumably there's other small towns or other cities out there that the roads could and would connect to. So let's think of different factions that would be in this setting. And if you are with us in Twitch, feel free to drop those comments in our chat, and we will keep an eye on that and see if we need to incorporate anything there. If you are watching this on YouTube, then maybe drop down in the comments below factions that you would like to see that would fit this setting, maybe factions you've come up with for your own setting, and some little information on that. We'd love to hear what you guys have come up with as well.
Yeah. Speaking of the hub, our major industry is logging. As you see on the map, number, I do believe, 9, which is A through D, is our lumber mills. That is our main source of commerce and wealth to the city. So that is one major faction that we could touch on as far as being going the more corporate route, the industry route.
Oh yeah. I mean, that definitely makes sense. It is the major emphasis of this town's economy. And so their lumber trade, whether it is a more broad lumber guild or whatever, or whether it's more broken down, so you have a smaller, lumberjacks group, you can have a carpenters guild, and all these things.
So the other one, because the hub, one reason why we named it the hub, it is the in-between place. It is where everything comes to and goes to, traveling between city to city. And thus, we kind of briefly talked about it last night, that there could be an information network going on. So some kind of faction that deals with that, whether it be a thieves guild or a spy network or whatever. Munisu in chat says mercenaries, which could also be another faction. Going along that route, we also talked about a thieves guild, not necessarily a complete thieves guild, but maybe a branch of them being smugglers. Transporting goods in and out, because the hub is famous for not only lumber but magical lumber. At that, there's this a type of lumber that is milled here that has, if I remember right, has magical properties that resist fire and resist being waterlogged and a whole bunch of other things that you chat watchers came up with last time. So yeah. So do we want to go ahead and switch to the OneNote?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So do we want to do mercenaries, as that is one of the main ones that our watchers brought up, or Mooney Sue at least did?
Yeah, I mean, we can do mercenaries. I like a mercenaries faction.
A little bit different.
I wrote down some of the ones that we had mentioned here. There could very well be plenty more that could operate in here.
Absolutely.
But today, let's just focus on mercenaries. So we're going to take this mercenaries here, and we're going to make this our kind of highlight of today's talk. All right, so we have mercenaries. Now, they're probably going to have some name. So if chat has a name of a mercenary group that could be call this either their kind of base of operations, because maybe they hold more sway here than they would in the main city, because they would probably act as the town's defense more than the town watch would. Maybe they are here because of the quick access to the road network to other areas. Mooney Sue came up with the Black Sigil.
Oh,
I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Black Sigil. All right, so we're gonna go with that. And they are in the hub, and I think that they would be town protection.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like town guard. They probably don't care so much about the small thefts and robberies, but I would think that they would keep the town safe from major attacks, from monsters, from things like that, if nothing else, out of their own self-preservation.
And maybe they have a deal with the lumber companies that are funding the mercenaries, actually, for such protection.
All right, yeah, lumber industry, and so they probably get some amount of their equipment and stuff from here. So there might be an emphasis on these wooden elements. So bows made from this lumber, perhaps things like that.
And, well, even because this place also has carts and wagons that they deal, so maybe the mercenaries get access to that, as well as lodging is the main thing I was thinking, whether it be in the city or just outside of the city even, or multiple places. Like they have outposts outside the city, but their major guild hall is inside the city, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I like that. Cool. So they provide protection for the town. They have a deal with the lumber industry to gain equipment, lodging from them, and pay for their presence. Okay, so then what else do we want to say about the Black Sigil? I think this is also things that you can think about is, what's the backstory of this?
Yeah.
Why are they here? And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe it's some remnant from the wars that caused this area to be magical. Like,
oh yeah,
they have a long-standing tradition that runs back to the wars that caused this area to be magically infused.
Maybe the founders were like elves or dwarves.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with it. I just it was like a jump. Like,
I know. Sorry.
Founders are elves or dwarves.
As far
where
as
were you
well,
working that
I was
in?
thinking because we haven't actually pinpointed like the exact time period that took place, and those are the longest living races or, species that you'd find in most fantasy settings. Right now we're using the 5e rules, but yeah, maybe one of the original members is still alive or something like that, so, and is still in charge of the Black Sigil.
Okay, so the original lives on, and let's just put in here an elf because they live the longest.
Here's something interesting, Mooney. See, it said war has recently changed. So maybe the guy, maybe he's on his deathbed like the Emperor in the Dark Crystal was, and there's like a power play going on now of who is going to be in charge next.
I like that. That makes it more interesting, I think, to me. Like that gives a lot of story driven for this area. Is the faction is currently in a state of turmoil as they squabble over. That's not how you spell squabble. 2Bs.
I think it's 2Bs. Yeah.
Yep. Squabble over the future leadership of the group. Like that. Yeah, so here you have this elf who's lived for hundreds of years, run this company for hundreds of years, and is finally like in his last gasps, or even could recently have died. And now all these people are fighting over who gets to take control over it, who is going to have, leadership that comes with probably a decent amount of wealth and influence and power. Cool. So it was also said in there, which I wrote down but we didn't point out, is that they're rumored to own certain powerful artifacts, or an artifact, which, again, a remnant of this old war of magic or something that was used back then, which I think, was probably a more magical time. At least sure. a more openly magical time in the past. So they work for this town for the most part, but they probably are mercenaries elsewhere. They probably do other things. They go out and do other things. Yeah. At least groups or small groups of them. And maybe, is there...
I was thinking maybe there's, because of this bid for power, maybe there's subgroups, like there's a specific group that goes out and monster hunts, and there's a specific group that guards the wagons that takes the magical lumber to the city, or whatever, maybe 3 to 4 different types of groups, subgroups within this group. So
all right, so let's do maybe monster hunters, guards, and military unit.
Yeah.
So they can be hired to go fight and kill monsters or gain bounties on certain monsters that are out there. They can be hired as guards for caravans and such. And in times of war or whatever, they can be, or at least certain sections of them will hire themselves out as units in a military battle itself. Parts of a larger army, probably more than just mustering a large army themselves.
Yeah. And maybe I was thinking with that idea, maybe as far as like specialties and stuff like that, maybe they're, really good at being rangers and archers and stuff like that coming from the area, and maybe the lumber companies have milled the magical lumber, and then or the archer or the bower and fletchers of the city have specially got permission to pick this lumber or pick this timber to make specialty bows and arrows out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I had mentioned earlier that would be a good the bows and arrows and spears and stuff would be a good part to include. So let's add that in here as well. That they're known for their archers, which I think maybe they use the magical wood for bows and have black feathers.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Just as a part, like they're the Black Sigil, so
yeah,
there probably be some. Obviously, there's some symbol that will be a black symbol, but then they use these black feathers to make them stand out in the battlefield, so that people know they were felled by one of their arrows. Okay, so they're more known for ranging and their skills with their bows and such, which I like. It's not like they're just straight thugs.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. That's what I was kind of leaning toward, is like their specialty, and it's almost and thus lending themselves to be ranger scouts, that kind of idea, than just brute force line up and fight. so the guards and stuff like that would go ahead of the caravans and just keep watch, while the regular guards, do the grunt work. Which also leads to, if your party wants to become part of this mercenary group, maybe there's a trial or something that you have to go through, as well as, standardized dues, I guess it would be called. So maybe, I don't know what kind of dues, because, you have...
Well, I think there's probably like a trial to join so that you have an opportunity to accept jobs from them.
Yeah.
You probably, if you're staying in the area, maybe you get the free room and board while you're there, but then, you don't really get any kind of payment from them. You have to take a job from their job board or whatever and go out and do it. So this is a good way to kind of have that option of side quest sort of thing in your campaign.
Mooney Sue said, prove yourself.
Yeah, I think so. So test new members, they have to prove themselves in a test or a series of tests. I think part of that would definitely be like, you have to go into this magical forest and fell some beast or whatever.
Yeah. Or a bandit group hiding out in the woods, highway robbery, or robbers or something like that. Whatever that the DM wants to create at the time, they have to go do and defeat, and so on and so forth. So.
All right. So a task which can change based on the needs of the guild or the company.
Because you figure this area not only will have, monsters and wild beasts and stuff like that, but people from afar want this magical timber for themselves, and they're probably being constantly raided by bandits, thieves, thugs, enemies of, whatever, because for this magical grove, or the even the process, because we said last time that they have perfected it where they can keep on growing the magical trees without it ever running out. So Well,
I think like
guarded secret. So
yeah, and I like honestly, or put this, but I'm just taking notes. But a well guarded secret, and I think this can go in may tie into the powerful artifact that they have.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that like that's perhaps why they are still here, that there's something in the woods that they're there to protect.
Yeah.
You know, or they're there to keep from getting out. Mm-hmm. So
that would be a neat twist.
I think that there's maybe part of this magical battles and things that happened is that maybe there's some temple or some, you know, ancient city was there and has now basically been destroyed, but there's still some sort of, you know, it could be some dark evil that's like in the underground of this this old city, and that they want to keep.
And maybe the Black Sigil is actually the actual sigil that is like keeping the barrier shut between the evil coming out into the real world and being imprisoned.
Alright. Black Sigil is the main symbol that was set to seal in this dark entity. So they've kind of adopted that as their symbol.
Yeah.
But most, probably even in the sigil themselves, don't know that this is their overall task. This is something that the founders knew, and probably a select few of the top members of the Black Sigil know, but not everyone knows about. You know, that there is this evil out there, and as long as the seal remains intact, the world will be safe. But if it gets out again, another massive war or massive battle will have to be fought to try to subdue this again.
Yeah. And maybe that's some kind of the elder of the, you know, only knows some kind of secret password or secret, you know, the magics to put him back, and that's why all the factions want to be leaders, so they have that knowledge. I mean, they know where the, you know, sigil's at, and they know, but they don't know maybe the magical code or incantations of such a spell. And that might have been passed on from, you know, the great wizard or sorcerer that imprisoned the entity, passed over to, you know, here, guard my blah blah blah, this is how you go blah blah blah. And then he dies. So yeah,
I like it. I dig it. So that, I mean, that gives you plenty to kind of work with, I think, as far as like the world goes. Things that you can play in this setting and be like, okay, this could be a whole campaign right here. This you know, this Black Sigil now could be the pivotal part around a campaign. Now, whether your players are part of it or they're on the outside and they're exploring, and then they're getting this pushback from this mercenary company because they don't understand that by them going to that forest and delving deep, they could risk shattering the seal, this arcane sigil that seals this thing in, and they could be unleashing this, you know, evil entity into the world that then the sigil will have to try to hunt and track down, which then, of course, you know, the party will have to join in on that, or risk
Yeah.
being the demise of the world, you know.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that right there, that's a good faction. That's something set up. There's enough vagueness still to this that you can easily take this and put it into something else or expand on it based on the game that you're playing and the story you want to tell with it. But I think there's enough in there.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely. Speaking of expanding, I mean, we're not going to do it today, and we'll probably do it for the Patreon subscribers. As you saw, that our map is much different than what we initially laid out for y'all on Twitch last time. But yeah, the names and faction members, you know, of the leaders and who's what and who's who, and maybe even the symbol itself of the Black Sigil could be done as well. But it's left up to, like I said, we're going to give you enough information right now that you could just take this from what you're watching and just run with it. But if you want more detail and stuff like that, definitely head over to our Patreon, and there'll be more stuff there. Then you could take that and add to that even more. And yeah, complete campaign right there. Bam. Or one shot or miniseries.
Yeah.
So.
But as you see, I think any good faction, you need a reason why it's somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, how does it make its money, which we have in here, or how does it sustain itself? Kind of a little bit about the leadership, their motivations, which is, you know, their special one of this guarded secret of protecting. So they're not just normal mercenary group. They have a role that if they don't fulfill will be devastating the world. And that gives you that tie-in to a good campaign option. And whether your players have a lot of interaction with them or just a passing interaction with them, you now with this, 3-4 paragraphs of stuff that you could write up on it, have enough that if someone really wanted to delve into and discover this, they can do some homework in the world, you know, go around, talk to people, explore things, and it will feel that lovely, like, fleshed out, interesting part of your setting.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, and that's what we want to continue with these wonderful world building series is give you the tools and give you a basis and build from there. And instead of a bunch of just random stuff, we like to build off of each and everything, almost like a stair step or a set of stairs. And that way, you at the very end of this series, you can take the complete package, or if you've been following along the whole time, then you can just pick and choose of what you want to take and plop it into your own setting and run from there. Or, you know, just if you don't even have a setting, you can just take all this information and go, let's build something, players. Let's take it and run with it. So.
All right. And I think for today, that's good enough, I think.
Yeah.
This is a good little stepping point. Use this, expand on it if you like. And we'd love to hear your ideas for different mercenary companies, other factions, anything that you maybe have already used in your world or something that this made you think of. Drop it in the comments and let us know, because we'd love to share that with everyone else. We'd maybe use some of that and expand upon it, provide that as another video. We'll see. Kind of get that going. But for today, I think that's great. And I think we'll look at that in the future. Other factions, other locations, other things that we're going to expand upon, and join us for all of these adventures. It'll be 2 weeks from today that we're doing this style show again,
Yep.
Next week there will be a game though. We do something every Tuesday morning on Twitch. So join us for that game. The Vobian Knights game will be on Tuesday next week. So join us then.
So thank you so much, and see you next time, watchers.
Bye.